Hey guys, Joel's coming at you with another reasoning session. Man, there are so many of these coming through. I literally can't keep up. Sometimes it's like I'm getting like 2 or 3 of these every day. But what came through today is very important because a lot of people think that when good things happen, we're on the right track. But if something goes wrong, we tend to think that maybe we're not on the right track. And then we beat ourselves up wondering, what did we do wrong? Where did we mess up? How can we course correct? But so many times, and I can speak from my own experience, a lot of times when things like that have happened is because I needed to take a detour so that I could either do what I needed to do before I got to where I thought I needed to get to, or something else needed to get done. Source always has a plan, and honestly, Source is never thrown off guard. There's nothing that happens that Source wasn't expecting.
Come now and let us reason together. Come now, we can talk it over.
So this is a story coming from the Greek scriptures this time. It's from the Acts of the Apostles. And what's going on, I'm actually going to paraphrase a lot of this story because it's pretty lengthy and I don't just want to be reading text. And if I do that and actually explain every little nuance, this video is probably going to be like an hour long. But a bit of background on this story. Paul has just appealed to Caesar. What happened was that he was arrested as a Roman citizen, actually by other Roman citizens, which was absolutely illegal. In fact, there were several times when he could have gotten the people that arrested him in trouble, but he didn't. And he had just stood before the governor to appeal. And just like we do here, if you lose a case on a lower court, you can always appeal to a higher court. And if you have the money and the lawyers, you can actually go all the way up to the Supreme Court. And that is what he had just done. He had just appealed to the Supreme Court of his day, which in his case, as a Roman citizen, was the Emperor Nero. The Emperor Nero, who was the most schizophrenic, and I'm not making this up, schizophrenic emperor possibly ever. He invented these slides with razors where they would put Christians on and they would just split them down the middle. He literally put them up on crosses and doused them in oil to light the avenues. Like, this was crazy stuff, and this was who Paul was appealing to. But as a Roman citizen, he couldn't be denied, so this whole process had to go down. And the only way for him to have a hearing before the emperor and the Senate was for him to get on a ship and head to Rome. Now, while they were about to disembark, Paul had a premonition that this voyage was going to be met with disaster, and he told the captain, but the captain didn't want to hear it. The captain was more interested in money, and they just said, you know what, this ship is disembarking. There's nothing you can do to stop it. And they set sail. But guess what? There was a storm that was brewing, and this storm was known as Euroclydon. They don't call it that now, but this storm hits every winter in the Mediterranean, and it's just like tempestuous. And this storm just tossed the ship, and they were, as the saying goes, in dire straits. And the ship was caught up in this storm, and they literally ran aground. So they were shipwrecked. So the ship got beached on an island called Melita, or Malta today, and they hit quicksand. So after the storm, here they are, the ship is on quicksand, you're sinking, you can't move, you're stagnant, and they're doing everything they can to lighten the ship. So they're throwing off all their cargo, all their food, all the stuff that he got as provisions for his journey, he's losing it all. As they're doing this, guess what happens? The ship starts to fall apart. So they're out here in the middle of this storm. In fact, it's so stormy that they can't even see the sky for 2 weeks. And while this is all going down, they're scrambling. They're trying to get all their stuff together. They're trying to repair the ship as it's literally falling apart on the quicksand. So they're tying the ship together with ropes. It's not holding together. They're scared that with this storm and the waves crashing on the backside of the ship, that they're going to run into rocks. So they're cast 4 anchors down. Finally, they couldn't last in the ship, so they cut the ropes and they used whatever they have left on the ship. Many of them couldn't even swim. According to the text, there were 276 people on board. So whoever could swim swam to shore, but whoever couldn't swim literally just had to grab on a scrap piece of wood and float. Some of these guys, they were floating all day and all night just to get to the island. And there were prisoners on board. The soldiers saw that the prisoners could escape, so they said, you know what, let's kill all the prisoners. But the captain knew Paul and said, you know what, let's not kill the prisoners, let's just make the best with what we have. So they ended up going onto the island. You know, these men are just drying their clothes off. They have nothing left. You know, they just literally have the clothes on their back, if that at all. And they get together and gather some wood, whatever they have to kindle a fire. So Paul's grabbing some wood and he goes with a stack of wood, but there's a viper that hid itself in the fire. And when he goes to add wood to the fire, this viper jumps out and bites him. Now this viper wasn't just a normal viper. And when the men saw that Paul was bitten by this specific viper, they said, you know what, there's nothing we can do. Even if we tried to save you, there's enough poison in this that can kill you in just a couple minutes. But he said, you know what, I have a promise from source that I am going to get to Rome. When I appealed to Caesar, this is going down. Literally, he saw an apparition, and that apparition informed him of this. So he knew what he was doing. He had his vision, and it was set in the Logos. So he just shook off the snake into the fire, and after they expected him to fall dead, nothing happened. And the chief of that island, the man in charge there, his name was Publius, he received the man after time, and it turns out that his father was sick with a fever, and it says in the King James, a bloody flux. But Paul goes in and he channels source and literally just heals this man. And what happens once that happens, all the people on the island hear about this and they want what Paul has. So Paul goes around and heals a bunch of people. What happens? All of a sudden, he has a good reputation. And from there, they send a ship from Alexandria. And the text says the sign of this ship was Castor and Pollux, which, if you know, is the twins of Gemini. Now in this time, this was literally like an ocean liner. This was the sign of the summer and the best sign to travel under. So from being shipwrecked, he literally has all these provisions sent to him from Alexandria, the knowledge capital of the ancient world, and the best ocean liner to take him to Rome with the crew, complete with provisions. Look at what's happened when you trust source, no matter what the situation looks like. And that's the thing that I want to talk about. The storm comes and it looks impossible. First it's cloudy, the wind's blowing, the rain comes. Okay, that's stage one. But guess what? Then the ship runs aground, and not just aground on any beach, but on quicksand. You can't get out, you're sinking, you're stagnant. And it looks like all hope is lost until the waves are beating on the back of the ship and the ship starts to fall apart. Oh my goodness, what do you do then? You grab whatever you can and float to shore. When you get to shore, you just start to dry off your clothes. You're building a fire, and what happens? A viper jumps out and bites you. This is all not just literal, but symbolic. It's very profound and has so many levels of which we can break this down. Think about it. A viper. What does that symbolize? It symbolizes an attack of someone with poison in their mouth, right? Lies, manipulation, deceit, control. You know, the media. I call them the Medianites. And we've seen that firsthand. But what did the guys do that see him? You know, as soon as he's bitten by this snake, they think, whoa, this was a really evil guy. The gods must be punishing him because he deserves it. But as soon as he doesn't die, they venerate him as a god. And it turns out that, you know, he was just channeling this energy. He was just bringing this mission to the world. He was just speaking for God in the world. So it's funny how people think that just because something goes wrong, we might not be on the right path at that moment. But think about it. A lot of times we have ideas of where we need to go and how we need to get there, but Source has a better plan. And sometimes it's a shipwreck that will get you to the place where you need to be so that you can get to the place where you need to be. But sometimes we need to take a detour, and it's in that detour where we're actually going to be afforded the very ocean liner that will take us to our destination. But it's in that place along that detour that Source really needed us to spread some light, to really bring that message, whatever message is in us, right? We each have our own talents. We each have our own calling, the message that we need to bring to the world that's different for each of us. But Source knows the intricacies of the journey. And we mustn't get our own egos in the way. Sometimes the very storm that we're going through is the very catalyst that is there to bring us the very provisions that will get us to our destination, the way that Source intends us to prosper in that destination. We're not supposed to get there on just some rickety ship. We're supposed to develop, we're supposed to grow, we're supposed to constantly be gaining in level, constantly. And that's what Source wants for all of us. And many times we are the vessels that are supposed to bring light into the world, but we just don't know the people that need that light. Sometimes it's a detour that will get us there, but we have to hold on to that vision, because when Source has promised you something, it's not denied. It might be delayed. It might look like things might even look like they're getting worse, but it will never be denied. It is always sure when Source promises it, because that is incumbent on the Logos, the living Logos, to manifest, to project it as a physical reality and bring it to pass. That is what the living Logos is. Through the living Logos, all material reality, all physical reality is created and manifest. So if you have a promise from Source, don't be distracted by the storm that's been going on, by the hullabaloo that we've faced over the last year or so, even throughout our whole life. Some of us might have had difficulties in our journey coming along to this period of time in our lives, but guess what? It's all there for our development. It's all there to actually bring that light to full fruition so that we can shine it forth and actually influence others. Because if it was just for me, if the light was just for our own selves, guess what? That really doesn't matter, right? We have to shine our light so that we can create ripples and influence others, bring others to this level of connection with Source. When we shine our light for others, that's when we really have impact, and we can actually really see gains in our own life. It's profound how that works, but it's really only in sharing our light that we actually gain more. So stay optimistic and don't be dismayed by what seems to be going on, because it's only making us stronger, and it's only developing that which is within us for when we really get to our destination and we can really shine for it. So practice now, start now, and really shine that light, because that is how this world is being born. We are literally ushering in divine energy into this physical plane. So I love you guys. I'll see you in the next video. I'm literally making so many of these, so you're gonna see way more of these reasoning sessions from me, because Source is bringing to literally every day. So you're definitely going to see more of these from me. Stay optimistic, because we are accelerating into this new earth. I'll see you in the next video. Joel signing out once again. Agape, Salaam, Namaste.